Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. A bit different today. You can see some different faces on the screen to the usual. Dan's not with us today, so it's myself and Abby doing comparing duties today. And we're joined by Alex Whitson, Managing Director of Vouched4, and Madeline Sunley, Owner, Director, Independent Financial Advisor at Blueberry Financial. And we're here today to talk about Vouched4, achieving and maximising your top-rated status in 2023. But before we get to the good stuff, bit of housekeeping, if that's okay. So we do want to make sure that everybody leaves today with any questions that they have, challenges that they have answered. So we're going to do that by taking questions either in the Q&A or the chat, whichever you prefer. And just to make sure the chat is working okay, perhaps everyone could just say a bit of a hello in the chat and just confirm that's working and you can hear us. But as I say, you can put questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Wow, thank you. Cheers, Madeline. Cheers, Amanda. Hi, Nick. Thank you, Matt. I hope everything's okay with you. Cheers, Laura, James, Tammy, Sophie, Matt. Thank you, everybody. Cheers, Sam. Good to see everybody on today. Hi, Simon. Hope you're all well. Thank you, everybody. That's pretty clear the chat is working. So thank you for doing that. Cheers, James. So as I say, everything today is about Vouched4, achieving and maximising your top-rated status. And delighted that we're joined with Alex today. As I say, Managing Director there over at Vouched4. Questions in the chat and the Q&A. And of course, we tend to get asked this a lot, so we'll deal with it now. We'll be sending a recording out later on today of the presentation, and plus any useful links that get mentioned along the way. So if there's anything you missed today on the call or you want to watch it back, because the content is so useful, which it absolutely will be. I've seen the slides and they're great. You'll be able to watch it back at your heart's content. And we'll also be adding onto our website as well. So it's going to form part of the video library. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Alex, who's going to go through the first part of today's presentation. We'll then break for a bit of a chat, a bit of a Q&A between myself, Alex and Madeline, and then we'll come back with some more useful top tips to help you qualify for next year's guide. So Alex, without further ado, over to you.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Phil. Good morning to you all. I hope you're all well. So what are we going to cover in this morning's session? I'll set the scene with some of the key trends that we're noticing as we head into 2023. I'll then give a very quick overview of Vouched4 and also the 2023 top-rated guide. I'll then share how to qualify for the top-rated guide at both advisor and firm level. We'll then hear from Madeline. She'll give some perspective as a top-rated advisor, much more valuable than me banging on. We'll then close out with 8 tips to make the most of top-rated status in the year ahead, and then we'll leave some time at the end, as Phil says, for Q&A. I know it looks like a lot. We're going to try and keep this interactive, engaging, and above all, I hope that you leave it with some valuable food for thought. So what trends are we noticing as we head into 2023? Firstly, encouragingly, appetite for advice remains high, but we're still noticing that people considering advice are spending longer than ever researching their chosen advisor. We know this because visitors to Vouched4 are spending 56% longer on advisor profiles, reading reviews, looking at checks, doing due diligence. And that's a trend that looks set to stay because it's driven by 2 factors. The first is just the ridiculous levels of uncertainty that we're living through at the moment. That stimulates demand for advice, but makes people extra keen to make sure that they find the right advisor. Added to that is the increase in online meetings. Now, to be clear, they drive a ton of efficiencies for advisors and also for clients. And platforms like this are fantastic, but they're not quite the same as sitting down with someone in person. And so prospects are looking to supplement that with increased online research. Further to this, data from our Elevation platform reveals that there's a very fine line between success and failure when it comes to turning prospective clients into clients. 63% of prospects who leave a 5-star first impression review on our platform tell us they intend to become a client. That more than halves to 28% who leave a 4-star first impression review. We've spent a lot of time analysing the factors that keep clients on the right side of that line at the 5-star level. Perhaps unsurprisingly, one of the most powerful is trust. And lastly, most of the advisors that we work with rely on client recommendations as their most valuable source of new business. They will always be the best source of new inquiry. What our analysis shows is that there's a huge opportunity for most advisors to make that engine work harder. Most clients are happy, which is great to see. Most clients would recommend their advisor. That's the middle bar and the right-hand bar on the chart that you can see in front of you. But when you dig further into the data, less than a third of clients actually regularly do recommend their advisor. So similarly, we've spent a lot of time analysing the factors that move clients from saying they'd recommend to actually regularly doing so. And again, one of the most powerful of those factors there is trust. And that's where we come in. So Vouch4 is the UK's largest review site for financial and mortgage advisors in the UK. We are focused on helping everyone access great advice. We've got a ton of data on the enormous value that good advice adds to people's lives. There's nearly 4,000 verified members on the Vouch4 platform. That reflects 70% growth since the start of 2020, mainly fueled by that increase in due diligence that I just spoke about. These advisors have backed up over 300,000 client reviews, and around 2 million people use us each year to both find and check advisors. Important distinction there. So people will often come to Vouch4 without an advisor in mind. They'll do a search and hopefully find one who's suitable for their needs. But also increasingly, people use us when they do have an advisor in mind. Maybe they've heard about one from a friend or an accountant or some other platform, and they use us as part of their due diligence process. So I'll just pick out some of the main features of the site just to bring it to life for people. First off, verified members receive an advisor profile. You can see Madeline's on the left of your screen. This tells you that she was top rated 2022, which means that she featured in our guide in the Times earlier this year. You can see all the checks that she's passed. And in the top right, you can see her client rating and the number of reviews that she's received. If you click on her firm profile, you come through to her firm profile page, which you can see on the right-hand side. Firm profiles basically aggregate the reviews and ratings of all the advisors associated with that firm into one powerful firm level score. Verified members receive a range of different tools, and the aim of these tools is to build trust with clients, which helps generate more referrals. 83% of our members, clients, say they're more likely to recommend their advisor having read their advisor's Vouch4 reviews, and also build trust with prospects, which helps turn more of them into clients. I'll share a bit more on some of the reputation tools later on and how to use them. Thirdly, Vouch4 profiles rank highly on Google. To bring this to life, let's say one of Madeline's clients has read her reviews, perhaps helped by one of the tools that you can see on the screen here. And that's made them more likely to tell a friend about Madeline. That friend, in most cases, is going to do their own research. And for most people, that's going to start on Google. As you can see here, if they've typed Madeline's name into Google, one of the first things that they're going to see is her Vouch4 profile and all the lovely things that her clients have to say about her, which makes them more likely to get in touch and ultimately become a client. So worth noting, a lot of firms spend a lot of time optimizing their firm level presence on Google, rightly so. That's certainly an important thing to do. But if you only do that, it can lead to a blind spot. The various consumer focus groups that we've run and all of our data points to the fact that when people hear about an advisor, typically the first thing that they're going to do as part of their research is type the advisor's name as opposed to their firm name into Google. And lastly, we're a very data-driven organization. We've got a bit better over the last 2-3 years of making that data available to our members to help them understand the value of the feedback that they're collecting. On the left, you can see an advisor dashboard, and this shows this advisor how their feedback is driving value for them. And here's some of the key metrics. So the first one is Googlers. That's how many people have Googled this advisor's name as part of their due diligence and clicked through to read his reviews on our platform. The second is clickers. So that's the number of people who have clicked on one of his reputation tools to read his reviews. The next one is referrers. That's the number of his clients who have said they're more likely to recommend him, having seen his voucher for reviews. You've then got direct inquirers. So that's people that have found and contacted the advisor through our platform. And finally, you've got potential inquirers. This is the number of people who have found the advisor on our platform, spent at least 2 minutes on their profile, and then left the site. This is a really important stat because people often use us to find an advisor, but then choose to make contact with the advisor through their own website. A bit like how you might use TripAdvisor to find a hotel or restaurant, but then ultimately make contact directly. And I'm all for that. I want consumers to do as much research as they want to before ultimately getting in touch. On the right-hand side, you can see some of the data that we make available at firm level too.
Alex, can I just pause and ask a question if that's okay here?
Of course you can.
Yeah, I've got one from Nick. He says, I'm a financial coach. Can you confirm that Vouched For is also for financial coaches? And if so, how many of the 4,000 members are financial coaches?
Yes, great question, Nick. Financial coaches can now list on Vouched For. I'm pleased to confirm. It's only something we've introduced relatively recently, and part of the reason why we didn't do it sooner was it was quite hard arriving at a series of checks to give us confidence that the financial coaches on the platform were, were good and were operating with kind of clients' best interests at mind. We've now developed a set of checks that satisfy us, and coaches are now able to list on the platform. In terms of exactly how many coaches we have on the platform, I'm not sure of the exact number, to be honest. I think it's in the region of about 40 or so, but we're certainly getting more requests, and I think it's an important part of our membership to grow in the coming months.
Thanks, Alex. Carry on, the floor is yours.
No problem. So in terms of the value of the Vouched For platform, and really what we're focused on is helping good advisors prove they do a great job, and in so doing, drive more organic growth. And to put some numbers against that, we run a monthly survey with our members, which asks them how many prospects they're meeting from all sources and what their conversion rate is. And the difference between an advisor who's established on Vouched For, been up and running for at least 12 months, an advisor who's just starting out, equates to 8 additional clients per year as an average. That is an average, so some will see less, some will see more, but it gives you a sense of what's possible. And important to mention, this excludes anyone that may have made contact directly through the platform. It's worth also just a quick word on our Elevation platform, which you may have read about in the press. Think of it almost like a much more powerful client survey. It helps firms improve client experience, meet consumer duty requirements, and also mitigate risk. I'll share with you a real firm's Elevation dashboard. You can see that on the right-hand side of your screen. Along the top, you can see how they're doing against the 3 Elevation goals. So the first is around making great first impressions. And the goal that we look at there is the percentage of their prospects that they meet. They tell us they intend to become a client. The second one looks at advocacy and the percentage of their clients who are passionate advocates who regularly recommend them. The third is around risk and the percentage of their client feedback that shows no markers of risk. And if you click into one of the goals, we've got the second one selected in this particular example. You can see underneath it all the factors that our analysis of hundreds of thousands of clients' feedback tell us are the most important areas to focus on, drive improvement against that goal. So in this firm's case, they're pretty good relative to the industry at giving clients the sense that their advisor is accessible to them. The little green triangle is the firm, the little blue one is the industry average. They're pretty good at giving clients maximum confidence around risk, that they understand the risks associated with advice. Interestingly, that's a huge driver of advocacy, particularly for clients in the 65 plus age group. They need to be absolutely sure about all the downsides if they're going to tell friends about you. And if you look at the bottom of that screen grab, you can see some of the main opportunities to improve for this firm. And this is where they're doing least well relative to the industry. The first is around talking to clients about recommendations. Generally, as the blue triangle shows, the industry is not great at this. This firm is even worse. And also, and this is the most powerful driver of all the advocacy drivers we've identified, they could do better at giving clients maximum confidence that they're on track to achieve their goals.
Alex, we've got a couple of things about Elevation, if that's okay.
Yeah, far away.
From Amanda, as a pilot user, the Elevation tool and the insight it gives us as a firm and our advisors is highly recommended. That's good. Then just a question from Ishbir on Elevation. And Ishbir says, on a firm level, are we able to use this when reviewing our brokers? Or is it only accessed by the broker users themselves? So I guess that's about access at different management levels within the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, one of the key things that is required by the Consumer Duty is around, well, firstly, collecting the right data to evidence value. But a crucial part of the Consumer Duty, which represents a big departure from, say, TCF and what's gone before, are the requirements around governance and making sure you don't just collect the right data, but you really put it to work within your business, driving the right decision-making at every level. And so to that end, as a firm, you can recommend, you can essentially give access to Elevation at all levels, and that's very much what we recommend that you do. So you can essentially have a firm level view of the data, which is what this is showing here, but then each advisor or each broker within your firm can also have their own dashboard, which shows how they're doing against each of the 3 goals and the specific things that they can do to improve. So that helps with the governance requirement within the Consumer Duty. It aids self-management because your brokers can objectively see how they're doing versus the industry and how to improve. It also aids your kind of central management visibility as well. It helps with things like appraisals, delivering more targeted training, et cetera, et cetera.
Thanks, Alex. And Sophie, we'll do 2 more questions and then carry on. Sophie and Tandy have both asked how they can access the Elevation platform. So what's your answer to that, Alex? And maybe we can put a link in the follow-up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's worth clarifying that Elevation is a distinct but related proposition to VouchedFor. So it's fueled by the same feedback form that you could just be set up on Elevation. And as I said, think of it almost like a much more powerful client survey that helps Consumer Duty and various other things. The cost of Elevation at the moment is £30 per advisor per month. If you wish to, you can make the relevant parts of the feedback that you collect through Elevation public on your VouchedFor profile in the form of reviews. So it's kind of getting maximum value out of feedback and bringing it all under one roof. In terms of how to get involved, what I'd recommend is emailing elevation@vouchedfor.co.uk. It's elevation@vouchedfor.co.uk, and then one of the team would be very happy to give you a more in-depth demo of the platform and help you decide whether it's of interest.
Carry on. We'll come back to Ian's question towards the end, if that's okay, Alex.
So a quick overview of the guide next. So we've been running the top rated guide for a few years now. It reaches over 1 million people through the Times. It's distributed nationally. There's a print part of the guide, which you can see on the left-hand side, and also a digital version. The guide's best described in 2 parts. So the first half is editorial content that helps people understand what advice is and crucially celebrates its value. I'm sure those of you on this call are only too aware that sadly, most of the mainstream media coverage of advice is fueled by the handful of horror stories. To be clear, it's important to flag the dangers and help people avoid scams, but there's a massive risk in only doing that, which is that many of the public who could benefit from advice don't engage or leave it until too late, which is a massive shame. So what we're looking to do with this first bit of the guide is really bang the drum for great advice and really kind of raise awareness of the fact that the vast majority of financial planners, financial advisors are doing brilliant, life-changing work for their clients every single day. The second bit of the guide lists region by region across the UK, those advisors who have qualified as top rated. There's also a section that lists those firms who have qualified as top rated as well. Top rated advisors and top rated firms receive badges on their profiles, as you can see here. They also receive access to a range of more focused top rated tools, from email signatures through to reports and so on. I'll share a bit more later on about how to use these. We did a bit of analysis recently on the value sort of seen by top rated members of the Voucher4 platform versus non-top rated members, and found quite an interesting uplift. So to call out some of the headlines, top rated advisors typically generate 50% more profile visits from Google. They generate 36% more direct profile visits. That's people clicking on one of their reputation tools to read their reviews. And they receive 2 times as many potential inquiries. That's people that have visited their profile and spent at least 2 minutes on it. So it's worth doing. And worth saying as well, there's no additional cost to our members of becoming top rated. We recommend everyone goes for it. So how can you qualify? So first off, to qualify at advisor level, you need a fully verified profile, which means that you've passed all of our checks and ongoing monitoring. The cost of this is £54 plus VAT per month, or £18 plus VAT per month if you're a new advisor who's qualified in the last 2 years. You need at least 10 reviews since the start of the year, with an average rating of at least 4.5 out of 5 or above. You need an all-time rating on Voucher4 of 4.5 or above as well. The deadline to qualify is the end of the year. To qualify at firm level, you need to invite 100% of your clients to leave feedback for you. There are some exemptions here, like if a client doesn't have an email address or is unwell, but the spirit of it is to invite all your clients to leave you feedback. To ensure that they're engaged, we need at least a 20% minimum response rate, an average rating of at least 4.5 or more out of 5. And there's additional checks and monitoring that we do as well. Part of the reason for sharing Elevation with you earlier is that in 2023 at firm level, Elevation's industry benchmarks will play a part in deciding which firms qualify as top rated. To give you a recent case in point, so it's a national firm that we're working with. They've got lots of great reviews, good response rate, good rating, but they're below the industry on some important risk markers, so that third elevation goal, and as such, they won't qualify as top rated on this occasion.
Alex, can I just interrupt and just ask a question? So I think last year, I might be wrong, but I think last year there was a 20% minimum response rate and there was a minimum number of reviews, 25 per advisor, 100 per firm.
Yeah.
Is that the same this year as well?
It is the same, yes, exactly. And the rationale for it is that we just need enough to be confident that, you know, the firm's doing a good job. If they don't have enough reviews in place, it's hard for us to get a good read on that. So
it's subject to 20%, subject to a minimum of 25 per advisor, 100 or 100 per firm.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. Thanks for clearing that up.
No problems. Sorry, it would have been helpful to list that here. On the what we can do afterwards, actually, there's a page to apply as a top rated firm, and on that page there's an FAQ section which goes into more detail than we reasonably could on this slide. So, time to hear from Madeline. I'll stop sharing my screen, and Phil, I believe you have some questions for Madeline.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll direct some of these to you as well, Alex, if that's okay. And you know, I might answer a couple of my own questions as well. We'll see. So, Madeline, as one of these planners that Alex talked about that delivers life-changing advice to your clients, just talk about trust, if that's okay, and trust with prospects and clients, and why you think it might have got more important over the last few years.
Well, so many things have been happening, not only with our profession, with like the British Steel issues that people have been reading about in the papers, where, you know, supposedly dodgy IFAs doing stuff, but also because of what's been happening, you know, with like the COVID crash, and of course this year has been a complete mess. I think that's the nice way of putting it. So therefore, you know, clients are looking for someone who they can really trust to hold their hand. And not just, you know, try and sell them a product, but actually someone who they can talk to about what's happening, and gives them real confidence, really. You know, that their money, if they put it in somewhere, isn't going to, you know, suddenly all disappear, and that this advisor is making sure they're making all the right decisions for their future, and not for the IFA.
Alex, you've got a wider perspective of this, dealing with, what is it, 3,000 advisors on the platform. What's your view on the trust point? How important is it? How much more demanding have consumers been when it comes to advisors and being able to trust them.
Well, I think that point around the increase in research done just sort of underlines how important trust is today. You know, people want to make absolutely sure that they are with the right advisor, understandably. One of the interesting data points I'd call out from our elevation analysis is that, as I mentioned in that screenshot I shared earlier, one of the biggest drivers of advocacy is how confident clients feel that they're on track to achieve their goals. One of the questions we often get asked by advisors is, has that confidence tanked given the state of the markets currently? And the answer is no. And I must be honest, I was somewhat surprised that we haven't seen more of a decline. We spoke to some of the clients that had left feedback and to better understand why. And the consistent answer was, look, you know, I trust my advisor. They've spoken to me in depth about the fact that the market will go down. And, you know, they couldn't be sure exactly what would drive it, but I expected some sort of decline, and I feel as sort of comfortable as I did previously, or near enough. I mean, but the point is there isn't a material decrease in that, you know, that client confidence, because most clients trust their advisor, which is great to see.
That's good to know, and that's a message that I think all in the community, everybody on this call, needs to be getting out to their clients and prospects. The fact that working with a good quality advisor or planner will lead to better financial outcomes and better personal outcomes for them. Madeline, back to you. You obviously have got a business there. You've got new people, new prospects coming to you, people who want to work with you. Just talk about what's your sense for the proportion of prospects who do some due diligence online, look you up online, visit your VouchedFor profile, visit your website before getting in touch?
I think they all do. So even clients that have been recommended by like their friends or family or things like that. And the reasons that I know is that, you know, AI asked them, and or they've typed it in their introductory email. I've got clients coming in next Monday who purposely have typed in, "We found you on VouchedFor." And even like other clients who I saw the other week, they were like, "Oh, we found you on, what's that site?" I was like, "VouchedFor." They're like, "Yes, that's the one." And I know they're going to my website as well, because they'll pick stuff up. So clients came and they said to me, "Well, we've come to see you because you've got a quote on your website from Kung Fu Panda." I was like, "Yes, I have." All clients are researching, and you know, like Alex pointed out, VouchedFor comes up so highly on the Google searches that they are looking at VouchedFor as well as your own website, just so they can understand more about you and what you do, and also find out what sort of a person that you are. Because I was saying to our receptionist the other day when we had potential clients come in, I was like, "Oh, they're so nice." And I was like, we only actually get nice people in because they've gone online, they've read about who I am and what I do for clients on VouchedFor and on the website. And therefore, if you're not a nice person, you probably won't like me, because I'm quite cheery and cheerful and it's all pink and purple, and you can reflect that in VouchedFor as well, which is great. So we don't get horrible people in.
What's the Kung Fu Panda quote, Madeline?
It's, hang on, let me get it right. It's yeah, oh no, you put me on the spot now. I'm like,
Well, I tell you what, look it up. I'll ask Alex a question. Look it up.
I know bits of it, but I can't remember the actual wording.
Alex, we'll come back to some specific questions in a minute on here. But so far this year, and this is, we'll come to your answer on this again, Alex, in the second half of the presentation. But Madeline, so far this year, what have you done to try and encourage clients to leave you reviews on Google and VouchedFor, obviously, as well? What do you do in your business to get more online reviews?
We just ask. So, and actually the easiest way of doing it is because it's all about ease and laziness. I literally log on to VouchedFor, I go to the referral generator or the, you know, that where you can ask for reviews even. and I adapt what it says very slightly, and then I put in my clients' email addresses and I send it off. And it's really easy. And because we know our clients really well, they virtually all come back, you know, and they do it really quickly. And also if they haven't done one, I'll just send them another quick email that says, "Oi, sort it out." So yeah, we make it as easy as possible by literally just using VouchedFor to do it.
Good. And it's a couple of points there. It's amazing what happens when you ask, isn't it? We had a client overseas who obviously can't be on VouchedFor because you've not, you know, reached out to worldwide domination yet, Alex. But we've got a client who's overseas. Sorry.
I know who you mean, and I'm gutted. With that, yeah, I'd like to get them on the platform soon.
They've been putting off all year asking for Google reviews, and we finally persuaded them to do it. And over the past week, they've had 13, 14 really positive Google reviews. So I'm with you, Alex and Madeline. It's amazing what you get if you just ask the right clients in the right way. And you obviously qualified for the guide last year, modelled here. Madeline, for you, what are the key benefits of being in the guide? What are the benefits been this year for being in the guide?
It sets you apart. So you can literally just go, you know, haha, I'm top rated, and you can show it to people. So actually, when we meet a new client, we give them like a folder of information on all of ourselves, you know, boring stuff like our client agreement, but we also print out you get the top rated report that Alex, you were talking about, and it beautifully has your picture on it and it says top rated. And then it says how amazing you are, and then you can print off all the pages if you want with all your client reviews. So that's great because straight away it says top rated, and just telling clients as well and making them aware. And also, if you think about going on something like TripAdvisor, you wouldn't want to go for like a 3-star hotel, would you? You'd want to go for one of the best ones. So it's, really simply, it's nice having a gold star. So we tell people about it, and also on our website. You can, just click on the VouchedFor thing, and it takes you through so that they can look at it. So it sets you apart.
Yeah, your website has a pop. We're using the VouchedFor widget. You've got a pop up, comes up on the screen. You're still in the Blueberry domain. Nice and simple. Let's do a few quick fire questions that have come in from the audience today. Then, Madeline, this first one is for you. It's from Elaine. Do you ask and update while the client's there, or do you do it when they have left the meeting? So I'm guessing what that's saying is maybe, do you ask clients for reviews at the meeting?
No, we don't. And we do need to get better at it as well. But no, generally, just every once in a while, we'll just go on and ask clients. Literally, we'll just go onto the VouchedFor thing and, send it off, to clients that we've either talked to recently, or sometimes it's a case of, the top rated thing comes up, you need to qualify by December, and we're just like, oh, quick, that's a great, shove to make us go and do some more. But actually we have just taken on Elevate, so therefore we need to do it on a much more regular basis as well. So it's becoming part of our process, which literally we're going to see a client, do the review for them, and then send them an email and straight away go, you've seen us, we were lovely, we gave you great advice, can you please write us a review?
And there's a lot of love for your Kung Fu Panda quote. I think we've got a few people on your website right now reading that.
And they found it. Yeah.
So Sarah makes a really good point, which is similar to the one you just made, Madeline, about Sarah's obviously a mortgage broker, and when the client has got the mortgage offer, they're really feeling high and very positive at that point. That's the perfect time to be asking for a review. So a couple more questions here. Alex, I'll ask you this one, then I've got a view on this. This is from Ishbia. Is there any way for VouchedFor reviews to be linked to Google reviews? The Google review SEO benefits is something that we would like to maintain for our website growth. So is there any way of linking Google and VouchedFor reviews together?
So not in the sort of slick, real-time, automated way that would be ideal for everyone. However, we're in the process of exploring a journey that would enable clients, once they've left the review on our platform, to copy the relevant bit and then paste it onto Google. We're exploring how we deliver that from a product perspective at the moment. And I know, Phil, that you sort of asked for reviews together sort of at the same time. So you'll ask for sort of a voucher for review and review. Some of the firms we work with will invite feedback on vouch for, and then what they'll do is they'll follow up with clients who have a Gmail address and send them the Google review invite, because that's currently a bit of a barrier for a lot of people to leave reviews on
Yeah, it absolutely is. We've found that actually there's a couple of just random points on this interaction between Google and Vouch4. Our view is that firms should be using both platforms. Really going back to something that you said, Alex, in that if somebody's searching for an advisor, I'm recommended to Madeline. I might type Madeline Sunley in there for the vouched for reviews come up on Google. I might type Blueberry Financial in, and therefore the Google reviews will come up, and the hopefully the vouched for firm page as well. So Google reviews are incredibly important, but they are very difficult to get. In our experience, firms get, for every one Google review they will get maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, even 7 or 8 reviews on vouched for. It is so much easier to get reviews on your platform, Alex. I think of one firm in London that got maybe 20 Google reviews, approaching 400 vouched for reviews now. And they'll qualify as a top rated firm again this year. So they'll be knocking on 500, 550 reviews by that point. But it is hard to get Google reviews, and anything Vouch4 can do to link the two together would be just spectacularly good, Alex. So I'm all for that. A couple of questions around qualification criteria, Alex, if that's okay. So this is from Melanie. If there is only one advisor in the firm, is the minimum number of reviews 25 or 100?
If there's only one, it's 25. Okay. And that's kind of the rationale for the rule being in place. So let's say you're a really small firm or of 1 or 2 advisors. We need to be confident that you've got enough reviews to give us a sense of, you know, whether you deserve to qualify at top rated level or not. And so 25 reviews per advisor is fine in that instance. The 100 reviews minimum is for larger firms where, let's say, some of their advisors might not be able to get 25 because they're newer or have smaller client banks, that kind of thing.
And both of those obviously have to tick the 20% minimum response rate box as well.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So I think that answers Matt's question as well. What else have we got here? Love for Kung Fu Panda. So this has come from Ravenska. Is the search result on vouched for automatically defaulted to verified members?
Yeah, great question. So the search function essentially will show you verified members unless someone unticks the box that says only show members that are available for contact. And if they untick that box, which some people do, then it'll show our starter members as well, who are on a free basic profile. The free basic profiles are a bit tricky, to be honest, because we're not able to do all the checks and monitoring on them that we can on the verified profiles. There's a very clear sort of badge on there telling users of the site that that's the case. But even so, sometimes we'll get journalists who, let's say, find a starter profile that's got some information on there that isn't quite right. And so, yeah, what to do with those free basic profiles is something that's kind of on our minds at the moment.
Thanks, Alex. Right, Alex, do you want to go back to your slides? We're going to talk more about how to qualify, and then we'll come back and do some more questions at the end, if that's okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, here we go. So yeah, just going to share 8 tips to make the most of your top rated status. I'm sure Phil can add some more to these as well. But the first one is around using your email signature and website badges to tell the world that you are top rated. See an example of the email signature on the left, and you can see an example on the right of a firm using our top rated tools on their website. We try and make it as easy as possible to use these website tools. You can basically copy code for the tools and paste them into your website. If you're not comfortable doing that, then I know a chap who's pretty handy with websites, so I'm sure can help you out. Second is to make use of the top rated certificate and top rated report. So the certificate you can see on the left looks great framed on a desk or on the wall. The top rated report Madeline touched on earlier. So this is basically a background report telling people why you qualified as top rated. So all the checks that you've passed, your rating, and all the reviews that you've received. Nice addition to a welcome pack or waiting room table and such like. Third is around social media. So we've got a Zoom background that you can use for Zoom calls. On the right, you've got a trophy as well. There's an additional charge for that, but it looks nice on a mantelpiece or again in Zoom backgrounds. So this one is the social media one. So we give you a variety of images that you can share on social media. One of the highlights of my year is on the day that the guide is published, and you just see hundreds and hundreds of advisors quite rightly celebrating the fact that based on their client feedback and the brilliant work that they're doing for their clients, they've qualified as top rated. I absolutely love it. If you haven't seen it before, scroll back in our timeline on LinkedIn and Twitter to around sort of end of March time, and you'll see what I mean. There's then the referral generator tool, which Madeline touched on earlier. Now, whether you become a member of our platform or not, hopefully some of the wording here might be useful, particularly given, as I shared through the elevation screenshot, the industry is not great at talking to clients about recommendations. This can potentially help. So this is a tool that our members can choose to trigger. It's an email that comes from us. You can choose who it goes to. So it can be all reviewers of all time or a selected list. It thanks the reviewer for their review for, in this case, Madeline, which helped her, and you can insert the relevant milestone there. In this case, it's achieving top rated status in 2022. It recaps our mission to help everyone get great advice and says, to that end, we'd be very grateful if you'd introduce Madeline to anyone you know who may need help by showing the unique link below. You can then choose to add an incentive or remove it. So why is the messaging here powerful? It's doing a few things. So firstly, it's a nice personalized message. It's a thank you, which tends to lead to good engagement levels. It gives confidence to Madeline's clients. So they no doubt know that she's doing a brilliant job for them already, but it's good for them to know that she's doing a great job for many other people as well, hence why she qualified as top rated. That makes them more likely to forward this email to friends or just have it in mind when they're next speaking to a friend. And then, you know, it makes the friend in question more likely to get in touch because they can see it's not just Madeline's client who thinks she's great. There's many other clients that share that view as well. So it's a nice virtuous circle. Next tip is around inviting lots of client feedback. So inviting clients to leave you a review every year is what we recommend. That encourages more of them to recommend you for the reasons discussed. And we try and make that as easy as possible to do through the platform. So you can use our review invite tool to just invite a big chunk of clients on a regular basis. There's also an annual feedback tool which you can set up. So you basically turn that on for all your clients or a selection of them. And 12 months after their initial review, they'll be asked to leave a follow-up annual review. And just before that goes out, you'll receive a notification telling you it's about to go out. So if, for instance, the person is no longer a client or something like that, you can choose to stop the invite going out. The next one relates to prospects, what we call first impression reviews. Now, these are so powerful for 3 reasons. If you invite a prospect after an initial meeting to leave you a first impression, that's one of the best ways to make them read your client reviews, which makes them more likely to become a client themselves. The second one is that you can see through our system their intention rate. So you can see how likely they are to become a client, which helps you focus your efforts and learn how good a job you're doing and such like. And then the third one is all these reviews all count towards the review count on your profile and also in the guide. So we publish a total review count in the guide. So definitely worth collecting these. I know some advisors are a bit wary of inviting feedback so early in their journey, but I'd really encourage you to do so. The average response rate from prospects for first impressions is over 45%. And the key is positioning it in the right way. So if in that first meeting with a prospective client, you say something like, I really care about delivering a great service, and to that end, I'd be really grateful if you could complete the short feedback form I'll send you after this meeting. No obligation at all, but I'd be grateful if you could. As mentioned, that leads to a very high conversion rate and much benefit. And then lastly, there's lots of firm level tools as shared. So making the most of them is important. Embedding the review carousel in your website. There's various widgets as well that we offer. There's a checklist here. I won't read through all of it, but as Phil shared, there will be a recording circulated afterwards. So if there's anything that you've missed, feel free to jump back here and check it out.
Thank you, Alex. That's fantastic. Right, let's do some questions if that's okay. Right, let's see where we got back to before. Right, one from Mark. And again, I'll happy to take this, Alex. You might have some thoughts on it. I've just Google searched Madeline, and the vouch for results, your voucher page, Madeline, was right at the top. P.S. I'm not a stalker. Good to know, Mark. But when I did the same exercise on my own name, vouch for was nowhere to be seen. What's the best way to address this? Alex, do you want to have a go? Do you want me to have a go? How do you want to do that one?
I'll have a quick go, and then keen to hear what you have to say on it as well, Phil. So it will vary slightly dependent on your name and how sort of unusual your name is. What we tend to see is that if someone has a more typical name, what the consumer will do is they'll add a qualifier to the end of it. So let's say someone's called Mark Jones. The consumer will add Mark Jones Financial Advisor. They'll add financial advisor to the end of it, and in most cases, the voucher profile will be nearer the top. The other factor that obviously plays a part here is how many people share the name. So there was an advisor on the platform a while ago called Michael McIntyre, which is a fairly unusual name, but unfortunately, obviously has many results associated with someone else. So similarly, what we see in those instances is that people will add that qualifying statement afterwards.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you on that, Alex. There's only one Madeline Sunley in many different ways, Madeline, and that is a relatively unusual name. And I think, Mark, that's part of the problem. The less unusual your name, the harder it is to appear there. I do suspect people will scroll down the page, Alex. I think the point about adding a descriptor is important. And there also, the other thing I would add, there also is Madeline's been on vouched for a prolonged period of time. So there's maybe a Google indexing issue there to play as well. I don't know when you became a vouched for member, Mark, but if it was very recently, maybe there's a Google indexing part to play there, because it takes Google a while to index pages. Hope that answers your question, Mark. Do feel free to put anything else in there if you want a bit more clarification. So this from Sarah. I'm a current top-rated advisor with 24 reviews. If I join the firm to vouched for, will those 24 reviews transfer over to the firm as a start to the new reviews? So I think, Alex, unless Sarah, you're saying you're changing to a different firm, I think what that's saying, Alex, is actually if Sarah's got 24 reviews individually, there'll be 24 reviews on her firm profile as well, won't there?
Correct. Yes, provided that she hasn't changed firm. So provided the firm has been the same from the start, then as soon as you connect up your firm profile, then it'll all flow through onto your firm profile page straight away.
So if that doesn't answer the question, feel free to put a clarifying question in the chat and we'll get to that as well. Right, this is maybe one for Alex, maybe one for Abby, to be fair, as our Yardstick, head of social media at Yardstick. I'm struggling to link vouched for to my LinkedIn profile. Are there any more detailed instructions, as I can't seem to reduce the size of the pic to fill the frame either? So I guess that's maybe the frame at the top, the banner image at the top. Alex, any thoughts on that?
So we create the images in the sort of optimal size recommended by LinkedIn, but images on social media can be quite fickle creatures. They're influenced by other things like the size of your screen and that sort of thing. What I would say is, we're certainly very happy to help. So if you want to reach out to one of the teams, we've got a great design and product team, so they'd be happy to help you with that. But Abby, you're a social media ninja, so you might have some further thoughts on it.
It's hard to say without seeing, like you say, individually. So I'd be happy to help as well. If you want to send any details over, we can have a look. It might just be that the dimensions aren't quite right.
Ninjas, Kung Fu Pandas, we're covering it all today, aren't we? Abby, just put your email in the chat if you would. And then Melanie, if you want to send Abby a quick message across, we can help deal with that. Right, Dinesh would like the links to the vouched for corporate LinkedIn page and the corporate Twitter page. So if we could send that across as well, perhaps Alex or Abby, you could just put that in the chat. Right, question from Darren. Is there a way of resending out an email to a client that is not responded to a review request via the site?
Yeah, great question, Darren. There's a built-in nudge that goes out about 7 days after the initial review invite, and it's very sort of gentle, no pressure nudge, which helps generate a few more review requests. So that's kind of a standard built-in feature of the site. As Madeline touched on, there's more you can do depending on how many clients you have in your relationship with them. We tend to see, I mean, the average response rate we get across all reviews for all the site is that 45% level across both clients and prospects. But that is an average, and there's some advisors on the platform who are close to 100%. The difference is almost always how they talk about it with their clients, and crucially, not positioning it necessarily as a favor that the client is doing you, but more as a means to help you deliver the very best possible service for them. So yeah, so long and short answer, but there's an automated nudge that goes out, and then what I'd recommend is sort of building it into your discussions with clients on an ongoing basis as well.
And a question from Philip. This is about integrations. You talked, Alex, that you're looking at trying to find a way of integrating Voucheful and Google together. Are there any other platforms such as Facebook reviews that are on that list, maybe in that development train?
To be honest, the methodology I described, whereby you could sort of copy and paste the relevant parts of your feedback on our platform onto other platforms, would be pretty portable. So there's no reason why it couldn't apply to some of the mass market review sites and Facebook as well. So awesome. Yeah, keen to explore all of those options.
Right, question from Ian. I think Alex, Madeline and myself would probably all have a thoughts on this. I'm concerned about the quality of reviews. When groups in networks advocate going around all your friends and in some cases making up reviews, how do you convince me that reviews are accurate and or independent? So Alex, you start, then Madeline, then I'll go now.
Ian, I'm really glad you asked this question, and you're right to be concerned. There's a lot of really dodgy practice that goes on with reviews. A lot of the time when talking about which review platform to use, all the focus is on the benefit to advisors or business without, in my view, giving enough thought to the benefit to consumers. This was perfectly illustrated for me when I went to a lunch hosted by a financial advisor that I happen to know. I don't know him hugely well, but at the end of the lunch, he sent an email around to everyone that was there saying, you all owe me whatever it was, 50 quid for the lunch, or instead you can leave me a review on Google. And within 2 or 3 days, he had lots of reviews from people who I knew for a fact had never used his services, talking about how great it was. And I was utterly livid. It was terrible. And unfortunately, many review platforms don't have any safeguards in place, meaning that anyone could review you, in all senses. I mean, there's lots of stories we've heard, for instance, of competitors leaving negative reviews on people's Google account or Trustpilot or whatever it is, which is a big problem. So the integrity of the reviews on Voucheful is incredibly important to us, and there's a lot that we do to ensure that the reviews are genuine. One is we have an algorithm which looks at a variety of different factors that tell us whether the review is genuine or not. For obvious reasons, I can't share all the details of that algorithm, but it will regularly on a daily basis flag any reviews that are suspicious, and then we'll conduct further investigations. In addition to that, we also do various spot checks. As part of leaving a review, clients will agree to sharing non-sensitive information with us to evidence the fact that they are a client, and will periodically request that they do that as well. So there's a lot that we do to make sure that the reviews on the platform are genuine, and it's incredibly important to me and the rest of the team that they are. And yeah, very glad that you asked the question.
Madeline, would you add anything to that?
Well, I mean, it is all about trust and integrity. So technically, yes, you could go around and get your friends and family to do that, and possibly, you know, if you can get through all of Alex's checks, which sounds like you can't. But when they actually come and talk to you, they're going to know. And it's especially the detail that some of my clients have put in the reviews. You know, I couldn't have written that myself. You know, what they've put, it's always their language. And what they've said I've done for them, which, yeah, if you're not a client, you wouldn't have written that. And the other thing I always say to clients is that they can talk to any of my clients if they want. So they could always pick one of the reviews and they could say, who's that? Obviously, I wouldn't tell them straight away. But I could go to the client who wrote it and go, would you chat to, you know, this prospect about it? And then they could see that they were a real person. And on top of that, I've also got reviews on my website from real people with their pictures and their stories and stuff like that, which links into the vouch for things as well. So yeah, and it's really hard push to be able to, yeah, to write anything that's not true about it. And I think it's great as well that I can't see what they've written until they've gone and done it. And then they'll email me and they go, I've done it, Madeline, what do you think? And I can only go on and see it once it's been done. So I really like that.
And there's just a couple of things I would add in there. I'd echo what you said, Alex. It's one of the benefits of using Vouched For, that actually getting fake negative reviews is just not a thing on Vouched For. In terms of the fact that it obviously has to be a client, someone has to be a client to have left a review on Vouched For. I think from both sides of that coin, that's really powerful. When it comes to Google reviews, we don't actually see that much negativity on Google. We certainly haven't seen, it's not a different experience to you, Alex. We've certainly not seen competitors go on and leave negative reviews for firms. We have seen negative reviews very, very occasionally, but it's always relating back to a client experience. And when you speak to the advisor, they do kind of hold their hands up and say, yeah, we dropped the ball on that one. But I think, Madeline, you're absolutely right. When it comes to Google reviews, I think you can genuinely spot a fake review from a genuine review because of the amount of detail there. A lot of clients go into a whole lot of detail when it comes to leaving a review that they wouldn't be able to do if they were making something up. And Alex, just to finally echo your point, that behaviour from that advisor is just abhorrent. It's completely against the spirit of online reviews. And I suspect that might have come through. I don't know who the advisor is, but if you read the reviews, I suspect that might come through in the quality of the comments and what's being said.
Yeah.
Right. Last couple of questions before we finish. Ian, I hope that answered your question. Be really interested in any feedback you give us on that. Right. Last couple of questions. This one from Darrell. If I move firm, do my personal Vouched For reviews come with me, or would I lose them all?
Yes, so they will. There's a change that we brought in recently to be fairer here to both advisors and firms when an advisor moves firm. So essentially, your reviews will always stay with you, but if you've collected them at more than one firm, there'll be a little message on your reviews that says some of this advisor's reviews were collected at another firm, but they will stay with you, yeah, and be listed on your profile as they are currently. And at firm level, the same applies. So let's say you've left a previous firm where you collected 20 reviews, they will have a notice on their firm profile saying that some of this firm's reviews were collected by advisors that are no longer with the firm. The ultimate aim, of course, is to be as transparent and clear with consumers as possible.
The message that we try to deliver all the way through today about being transparent comes back to the trust point, doesn't it? And last question, Ishbel, how would you encourage clients to leave detailed reviews rather than just star ratings? Alex, that's one for you.
So the review form itself really encourages that. We've tested lots of different questions to ensure that we're really getting good, valuable information from each reviewer that will help other users of the site. And if you go on and look at, say, Madeleine's reviews or any of our other members' reviews, you'll really see that in action. You'll see that they go into a lot of detail on how the advisors helped, what they were looking for in the first instance, all these sorts of things. It's pretty rare that we get short reviews that don't go into much detail.
And just ask them, sorry, Phil, I was going to say, just talk to them about it and why it's extra helpful to put more details in, because you're helping other people, explaining how you've helped them.
Absolutely, Madeleine. I 100% agree. Right, I think we're good. We've answered everyone's questions. We've finished broadly on time, which is always a good thing. Madeleine, I just want to say thank you for your time today, your input. It's been really valuable, really useful. Alex, thank you as always. Learn something every time we do these webinars together. So really appreciative of you giving your time as well. Thank you to everybody who's been today. Hope it was really useful. Glad. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Evenska, Will, Carolyn. Glad it was really useful. We'll send out a recording later on today of the presentation, the questions in the webinar. And then if you've got any follow-up questions, you can reach out to Madeleine via Madeleine's website. Alex will put your email address in there if that's okay in the follow-up. And then if anybody wants to get hold of me or Abby, you can simply reply. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you, everybody.